Hey, what's up everyone? It's Duskmos, and today I've got the Kilter V2 from Champion Leccy. Let's check it out. So today in the Signal Colors primer video, we're looking at the Kilter, the second version, the V2 version, which is technically a utility pedal because it doesn't actually have an effect really of its own, but what it does with other effects is really, really cool. The short version of what this thing does is essentially send your input out to two different pedals and then back into the pedal and then out of an output. And even though there's a lot of jacks here, it's a mono setup because you have to support being able to come in and out while also going in and out to two different other devices. Why would you want to do such a thing? Well, it'll let you creatively blend multiple effects together to create kind of a new effect, really. So as you can see in this setup, I've chosen to pair the Kilter with the 1981 Inventions DRV, an overdrive distortion type pedal, one of my favorites of the category, and the Draume from Plastic Electric, a very textural reverb. And what the Kilter's allowing me to do is send the input coming from the OP1 out into each of these and then blend them together at a rate that you decide. So you control that with space and time. Space being the depth of the effect as it switches between the two effects. And then time is the rate that it also switches between the two effects. You've got independent volume controls of your two loops in case whatever devices you're using it with don't have their own on board, or if their return is just a little loud. You've got a phase control switch so you can invert phase of one of the loops in case you're having phasing issues. And then you've got the different wave shapes here on this dial, which determines how the two pedals interact with each other, how it morphs between either signal. Of course, you have a bypass and you also have a tap tempo. And while this description isn't necessarily complicated, it is a lot going on, and so maybe the best way to go about it is to just hear it in action and see how all the controls work together. But before we do that, I want to shout out Champion Leccy for sending this out for me to share with all of you. I always love checking out their devices and love the artwork, always so quirky and cool. But it's a pretty different aesthetic, and I appreciate it. Anyway, let's hear it. So I'm gonna start with my source material clean as always. I'm using the OP1 field. Doesn't really matter exactly what source you use, of course, but I'm coming in mono. I'm just using the left output of a stereo split cable. And as I mentioned, it's a mono utility, so it's coming out mono as well. Let's go ahead and hear it clean. Nice pad sound and some bass. Actually, before I engage it, I'm going to turn up the space, which is the depth. So you'll see these LEDs kind of brighten up instead of stay like this, where it's kind of dim. But this reflects the two loops. So loop A, which is on this side, is going to the DRV. Loop B on this side going to the Draume. And so this is representative of that panning, well, not really panning, but merging, shifting between left, right, at least the left and right pedals. So I'm going to engage the Kilter. You don't hear much now, just a little bit of maybe a slight volume difference as it crosses over. That's because neither pedal is engaged. So let's go ahead and engage the DRV. So this really illustrates when you're hearing the DRV and when you're hearing nothing right now, because this is also bypassed. So you could kind of use this to just drop in one effect kind of subtly if you wanted to, so you could like slow it up, reduce the depth a little bit. increase the depth, increase the speed. So it's kind of like, almost now it's like a driven trem kind of thing. And I have it set to square wave right now because that's pretty much the, I don't know, the wave shape that I think really is a good one to start with that illustrates what this is doing. So let's go ahead and engage the Draume. Can bring up some texture on that as well. And again, you can tweak the depth. What's interesting about that too is you can reduce it all the way down, and you're hearing both loops at the same level layered on top of each other. So you're hearing the DRV and the Draume right now. Just in the clock rate on the Draume. As you could hear, or as you could see and hear, but you could see that you can hear both at the same time. Then we increase the depth, and it's really going either or. Got rid of the bass there. Let's try some other wave shapes. As you can hear, this one's fading in the DRV, and then a sharp peak, and then cutting off. And again, say you want to, these have independent volume control, so you can boost the reverb, the drum side if you want. Let's flip it. Let's make it. It's gonna fade in, ramp in the Draume, and then 100% drop in the DRV. Again, we can speed up the rate here. Kind of interesting to do, especially if you want to, tweak the levels. Like here, you could really emphasize that sort of beating. And what's really cool is there's also expression on board. So if you wanted to, you could do what I'm doing here and ramp this with an LFO externally. Something like an expression ramper or a foot pedal. But really cool. Kind of return them to the same level. Decrease the depth a little bit. We'll skip over square. And a smoother wave here. can slow the rate down pretty slow. So if you want longer evolving morphs, you can do that, which is really cool. Next wave shape. It's sort of like kind of peaky, scooped one. Oh no, I think I'm on the random now. This one's kind of cool. It's like a sample and hold, so it's random levels. And this next one is random, like ramp. So you can really get some good randomized vibes going on. Kind of going for a little bit more of a subtle effect here with the DRV kind of filtered. Switching up reverb types to a metallic. And on the drum, there's even the mix amount, so you can, I don't know, again, like whatever pedals you hook it up to, you'll have different ways you can kind of use this, because here, you know, you can even leave this doing its thing, but then you just mix out the effect. And then you're kind of going from a lot of the DRV to just a little bit of Draume. Definitely a crispy setup here, but I think they work really well together. Change up our wave shape. Back to square. Blending the levels in and out, you can, again, kind of manipulate what you're getting. And of course, you can bypass. And you're more or less going between just a clean and the drum. Set the Draume to real wobbly mode here. It's Bring the DRV back. And say, I don't want this hard cut between the two. We'll just leave a little of each intact. Bring up the levels. And you've got that sort of subtle shift now. Play with the wave shapes. So there you go. That is the Champion Leccy Kilter V2. A very cool utility pedal that has a lot of control and tweakability. Really cool being able to send out your source to two different effects and then blend them together. Kind of brings new life into effects that you may already have that you maybe don't use as much or don't have modulation or, that much interesting going on. This will kind of allow you to blend it with something else that might make things a bit more interesting. I was randomly sent the pink version, but if you're not interested in that, you can pick either a sort of like a darker gray-black or a yellow version, which both look really cool as well. And yeah, I think the Kilter is just a really good way to bring new life, new added value to existing pedals that you may already have. And even beyond that, you can actually use this as a tremolo. Like, for example, you could turn one of the clean loops down, one of them up, and then you're getting that volume difference as it flips between the two. And I guess even a boost because you can crank those up. So that's nice. And I bet you could do some other tricky stuff with this. Like, I don't know, I feel like you could come in mono and then use the two sends as a left and a right to go into something stereo. And then this would be like the wave shapes would control the panning between the left and right. That might be something to try. I'll have to check that out in a exploratory layers video perhaps coming up. And thanks again to Champion Leccy for sending this out. It's a really nice addition to my collection of wildness. But on that note, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.